session of Recycled Architecture Virtual Talk Series. Last week's session with Christo and Jeanne-Claude was quite inspiring. I'm confident this week's session will be equally interesting. These talks are hosted by the Middle East Innovation Leader and Pioneering Force for Sustainability, BIA, in collaboration with Khazan Park. BIA's ventures range from waste management and renewable energy to sustainable transportation and environmental consultancy. Their new headquarters is set to launch at the end of this year, is an architectural marvel and by far the office of the future that emulates the company's twin-pillared strategy and sustainability and digitalization. Today, we are delighted to talk to Mr. Nizar Haddad, who graduated from the Académie Libanaise des Beaux-Arts, the Lebanese Academy of Fine Art, and is the founder of NH Architects. Nizar's evolving vision of architecture and his passion for nature are what have fashioned the guidelines adopted by his company. His interest in green architecture stemming from his respect for the natural world grew to include techniques that promote a sustainable and self-sufficient dwellings. Known for his Lifehouse project, Nizar decided to develop it while revisiting and applying multiple long-forgotten ancestral building methods and employing the knowledge of these masters to produce the most optimal ecological, self-sufficient, and economical prototypes. Its concept is based on passive, fully self-sufficiency with minimum cost and carbon footprint using recycled and local natural materials. Important notice to our audience, please feel free to ask questions in the comments on BIA's YouTube channel, and I will make sure to read them to our speaker at the end. Okay, now, before we delve into our main question, Nizar, please tell us a little bit about your journey thus far and what really inspired you to do what you do.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me. I've been focusing a lot on sustainable architecture for many reasons, and one of the main is my interest. I'm someone who's into outdoor activities a lot. So during my hikings and my outings, I used to see a lot of buildings as an architect. I focus a lot of buildings in nature, old ancestral buildings, ruins that were hidden in nature. I think the screen is shared, yeah, now? George, do you see this? Okay, so...
No, not yet.
You don't see the screen. Wait.
No. So if you want, please share it.
Okay, share screen. Okay. So now it's fine? Wait. Okay. Now.
Yeah, now we can see it.
Yeah, so this is one of the buildings that I took in photo in a hike, and I was always fascinated by how our ancestors used to build this way. You see, this way, I mean, so integrated in nature. So they used to refine these techniques that were respectful to the environment, but also very efficient thermal-wise and cost-wise. I thought that this is a knowledge that is endangered, and that today, after the Industrial Revolution, we started to forget about these techniques that were refined for thousands of years. And yeah, concrete and metal took place everywhere, and yeah, we lost all this. But actually, these are very precious. It's a very precious knowledge that I think it's worth to resurface and get inspired from, to get back to respect nature. So when I see these buildings like this one, or this one is in Lebanon, in Jabal Musa, you see how the stones are very well integrating the building in the nature. It's melted, and I assure you that inside the building the temperature is amazing in the summer. Here also it's during another hike where this is a cub building built with also stone, and you see how very discreet it is. So these kind of buildings are inspired me a lot, and I was wondering, why don't we take a bit of this knowledge and try to re-implement it in modern architecture in a subtle way, while mixing it with modern scientific knowledge. So this is the Lifehouse, the prototype I did in Baskinta, which integrates a lot of ancestral knowledge. And this is another building we did, a multi-purpose hall we did with the United Nations Development Program in the south of Lebanon. Okay, so one of the things was all these ancestral techniques, buildings, but another source of inspiration for me was Michael Reynolds, who is a guy, an architect that was interested in recycled architecture, in using, he created the techniques of building with tires in the 70s during the crisis of petrol, because people felt this period of time that we were very dependent, and we are still actually very dependent from every petrol-based product. And in this period, he decided to develop techniques that were more, that consist more about reclaiming thrown away materials and yeah, do something out of them. So he did a lot of experimental things. He's an icon in recycled architecture. But also another guy whose name is Malcolm Wael, and he's also an amazing architect who was more into buried houses, which is also a very interesting concept in architecture that allows us to 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 hide the buildings in nature, to reduce the impact of the building on the environment visually, and also get a very high efficiency in on the temperature, thermal wise, I mean, through the thermal mass of the earth. So yeah, this is one of the icons of buried houses, also Malcolm Wael. But there are also other source of inspirations, other architects from Europe, from France, etc. These are the main ones. But yeah, so
okay.
that's
Okay, so Nizar, tell us a little bit. What is your philosophy on the role of recycling in architecture, and how do you apply that in your projects?
Yeah, so so recycling means recycling garbage. Okay, so it's a modern concept to talk about recycling, because in the past there were no garbage, there were no trash to recycle. All the materials, I mean, past before the industrial era. Before this period, all the materials were mainly natural, and if there was some material that like metal things that were thrown away, they used to biodegrade, so we don't need to recycle them. And even though they used to also reuse, remelt the metal and do something else out of it, so it was fully sustainable, the approach before the industrial era. Without they didn't do it for, you know, they didn't have the choice but do it this way, because there were no plastics and petrol products. One notion I noticed in the modern days, that all of us we live in a house where there is a garbage bin. And we were born next to next to a garbage bin where we throw the Kleenex and things like this. So it's something that for us is part of our life and is something obviously here, and we consider it natural, normal, very normal. But actually, it's completely abnormal. It's something that was the result of this industrial era, and before, as I said, that didn't exist. So yeah, but unfortunately now it is there, and we should deal with it. So that's why we should try to find a way to reduce this trash, because actually it's endangering our biodiversity. We are, unfortunately, also we don't see directly the impact we have on nature. this is delaying us from taking the initiatives to do something instantly at the moment, and we always wait for environmentalists to talk about it, and we don't take it very seriously. But actually, we are really facing a man-made disaster, and we are dependent from this biodiversity because we live through it. If we don't have animals, we don't have food. If we don't have food, we will die. So all this richesse in the environment we have is being endangered, and we can see it through scientific statistics. How many species are being extinct this century. And one of the main source of pollution today is the construction industry, because it doesn't take into consideration the cycle of nature, and the way we build today is a linear way. It starts from the extraction of the raw materials to the end of life of the building, with in each phase a lot of garbage going out. I can start. This is why I started to think in a different way, construction, and this is how I see recycling in architecture. It's not just about reusing a material, repurposing a material, or let's say recycling it, because there's a slight difference between both of them. I will talk about it next after this, but yeah, so it's the cycle of life of the building that should be recyclable, that should be circular, cyclic, and be integrated, respect the cycles of nature. So today we're overcrowding the planet with our buildings. We are invading it, and these buildings are not designed to biodegrade, to respect the nature. As you see, we have a lot of concrete jungle here. This is an example of Beirut. So I will talk about the phases a bit, one by one. So first, we have the extraction of the products from nature through quarries and mines, and the way we do it is very harmful for the nature. We are sterilizing the soils, and we are disfiguring the environment. This is a quarry in Lebanon. I took it in picture from the plane, so it's huge. Then the next phase, when we get these raw materials to transport them to the factory in order to process them, we are transporting them through big transportation vehicles, which is here it's a boat, but it can be also big trucks and things like this, and they pollute a lot during their way to the factory. And yeah, so once they reach the factory, also these factories release a lot of gas and release a lot of chemicals in the waters, in order to be able to transform these raw materials into constructible materials. Then during the construction side, during the use of these materials in the construction, we have a lot of trash that is also thrown away. For example, in this picture, we see they are dumped everywhere, roughly in nature. So once the building is done, we consumers buy this building, and a lot of buildings are labeled themselves as sustainable buildings because they are painted with green, or they have a bit of wood inside, and then they say that they are sustainable. But actually, all I said before was not taken into consideration to get us to be really sustainable. So the process is part of the sustainability of the building, not only the building itself. So once we get this building built, it's time to know how to use this building and to see how this building uses energy in an efficient way. So today, in most of the houses, modern houses, we use electricity from the grid. When you use electricity from the grid, I mean you're exploiting power plants that are they release a lot of gas. This is the main source of power today around the world. Concerning the trash we consume, also during our occupation in the house, is also the same. We throw all the trash in dump fields, in landfills. So and they end up in the sea, and as I said, all these animals end up eating this trash. And there's also one thing that is concerning the water, also, that is not taken into consideration: the sewage water. A lot of places there's the sewage grid, that dumps the water in the sea. Unfortunately, in a lot of countries, even in developed countries like France, and they all throw like 80% of their water in the sea rolling. So yeah, the way, and in addition to this, these houses, if they are not very well insulated, they consume a lot of power. A lot of power, I mean a lot of energy, to heat and cool the house. And this is also a lot of energy to cool, to consume. It's 40 or 50% of the energy consumption of the house comes through heating and cooling. And so once the building reaches its end of life, it's destroyed. Mostly, all the concrete buildings have approximately 100-year of lifespan, and then the concrete is not structural anymore, and it should be destroyed or reinforced with a new structure. So it's an unsustainable product that ends up in landfills also, or maybe I don't know, they use it to bury things, but it doesn't. It's useless actually. So yeah, in my case, I decided to change all these phases into different new phases, a new way of thinking the architecture, and try to revolutionize it. So this way, I decided to adopt the principle of the RRR, reduce, repair, reuse, recycle. And they are written here by order of priority. So we start by reducing before anything else. Then we try to repair, which is something that is being less and less done these days. We consume and we throw away all the time. Then try to reuse, repurpose, and find a different way, a different use for something that has been thrown away. And at the end, if all the other three are not can't be adopted, we try to recycle.
Very interesting R4 philosophy. I like it. Nizar, does recycling mean automatically sustainable? I mean, I would like to hear your input on that. Where does your practice stands with regards to both?
Yeah, so to complete what I was saying here, recycle for me, it's شو صار هون راح السكرين.
Yeah, you stopped sharing.
It's weird. Okay.
Sure. Okay, so we see it again. No problem. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So recycle for me is the worst case scenario. You see, if you can't choose the other three, you should not recycle, because recycling, if I want to really define what it is, it's repurposing a material, retransforming it to the same use as it was, or to be part of the same product that it was, through an industrial processing. So this is recycling, literally. Otherwise, it's different words like reuse or repurpose. So that's why recycle consumes energy. It's not an energy-free transformation process, because it uses factories, it uses power to change. This is in the background a picture of a recycling plant. So it's like a factory also, but its purpose, instead of producing using new resources, it uses already used thrown away resources. And this is where I consider that all the trash we found in nature, I don't know, this notion about today of considering that something that we already used should be thrown away. It's something that everybody has in mind, like, we use this thing, it doesn't work anymore, we throw it. We don't think of finding some different way to use it. In my case, I consider all the trash as resource. It's a resource, so we can reuse it. And as you said, as I said, the worst case scenario, the last option is to recycle.
Okay, got it. So when one think about recycling, the first topic that comes to one's mind is material. If we keep materials on a side, can you see a way where architecture itself can be recycled?
Of course, of course. Okay. First, I already gave the example of not just about the material, but the whole construction process can be recycled, but also a space can be recycled through renovation. But when I say renovation, I don't mean only by repairing the existing material. The materials themselves, but re-giving a new purpose for the building. If a building was, for example, a kind of mill, it can be renovated, modified, and used as a stable or as a house or something different. Here, for example, this is an old ruin that has been repurposed in a very subtle and genius way in a house. While upgrading it, we can upgrade old stuff, used buildings, all these things that we think that are useless now, and we can change their function and upgrade them technologically. Even like if you have just a stone thing, we can add to it all the new materials, do a very interesting mix, and even though also add to it sustainable systems like recycling water, taking the power from the sun, etc., etc. So anything that is thrown away, we can also modify it, and this way we are recycling a building, not just the materials.
Okay, very, very, very insightful. You know, a lot of material used in building industry. I mean, now we're going into the material. So like interior fit outs and installations. So they are organic. A lot of them are organic natural substance. So what are the materials that you used in your architecture, and how these materials affect and define your design process and product?
Okay, so concerning the construction materials, in my case, I do not limit myself to a static list of materials. The Lifehouse concept is more about considering the location of the building site and the proximity of natural, industrial produced and reclaimed materials that are available. So we can we improvise depending on each project. What are the best materials that are fit to the project itself? But mostly we use natural materials, as I said, and repurposed materials. I'm gonna mention here mainly the materials we use the most frequently. Actually, mainly maybe in Lebanon, but in different countries they can change. So we started by using tires, used tires. Used tires are I noticed that it's an amazing resource. It's something that like each day we have in Lebanon at least 600 tires that are thrown away. In the world, I cannot say how much in the world. So we can know how much the amount of tires available and the power of a tire, because it's a very strong product that is not biodegradable and is very, very resistant to movement, to traction, to everything. So yeah, in Lebanon we usually burn the tires for manifestations, but actually in our case we use them for construction. So we fill them with earth, and we built with them retaining structural walls. that are amazingly strong and anti-seismic, and they have amazing thermal properties.
Sorry, Nizar, this image is of what?
This is the construction of the lifehouse, of the first
Okay.
the prototype. The prototype I did in Baskinta.
Okay.
This is also another point of view of the same building. So yeah, it's an amazing product. It's for free. It can replace concrete retaining walls, and it's anti-seismic. And yeah, so this is also we used tires in the United Nations project we did in the south also. This is the wall we did with them, and yeah, so we use tires, and it's a very interesting material that should not be neglected at all. I think we should adopt it in a lot of buildings. In addition to this, we use also glass bottles that we cut and make bricks out of them, and integrate them in walls to let the light in. It's like glass blocks, but instead of using newly produced glass blocks that are energy consuming, their production is energy consuming, we use something that is being thrown away in huge quantities. I just have to talk to one pub, and each week he can give me like hundreds of bottles for free. So yeah, so this is the main two repurposed material we use. In addition to this, also we use also wood chips for insulation, and to mix them also in with straw and mud and things like this. We use also straw bales to mix them with cob to make adobe bricks here in this image. This is an amazing material. It's part of our patrimoine, our heritage. In Lebanon and in all the in all around the world, actually everywhere they used uh, concrete block, raw earth blocks. We name them adobe bricks. We just build with them walls, and they have amazing thermal properties and hygrometric properties and acoustic properties. I don't know why, but today, but these kind of construction materials are not used anymore. We were able to pour actually approximately 300 bricks in 2 hours in the morning. It's a very fast production for small scale buildings, and it's easily implementable in even renovation, not just new buildings. We can use them in partition walls and things like this. In addition to this, we use also mud for plastering walls. Here we plaster all the tires with mud, and this is the result at the end. It didn't finish yet. This is only the earth. After this, I have the later picture.
But you know, it's beautiful like this, even if it's not finished.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's just that in small spaces, it's a bit dark, but in big spaces, it's an amazing texture and color. It's very earthy. And as I said, it absorbs humidity, and it's very good for the acoustics. In such a house, if you don't put furniture and if it's completely empty, you don't have echo inside. In contrary to a new concrete house where you come to buy a house, you talk inside, you listen to echo. Here, no, here the acoustics are amazing. One of the most important materials for me in Lebanon, it's stone. But for example, in deserts, there's not a lot of stone. So in desert, it's more about mud and sand and things like this. But there is a bit of rock also. But yeah, so yeah, it's an ancestral, typical ancestral material that has been used for thousands of years. And in my case, I use them in a masonry, not as a cladding. So we don't stick it to a wall. We build with it as a masonry. So also there's a very interesting material we used here is reeds, cane, asab. We have a lot of it in Lebanon because there is water and the climate is moderate in the littoral. So So you can do with it amazing structures. Also, that yeah, it's light and it's zero energy consumption. It's just the small transportation to the site. We use it, as I said, as a structure and as also an insulation. Here in this wall, we put it behind the stone wall, and we treat it to avoid the insects to eat it. So yeah, so these are the main materials we used, but they are not the only ones, of course. As I said, it depends on the site, on what the culture of the people. Because if I'm building in somewhere where they use bamboo, I will use bamboo. Because I also implement in the architecture the cultural aspect. So, yeah, these materials actually they reduce.
You also mean the local material, correct? Like what is there?
Yeah. This is the most important. Actually, culture is automatically associated with the local because they used to do it this way. So, yeah. But with the beauty in it is that I don't have to bother to find how they used to build with them. I just have to dig deep in their culture and find their techniques and try to get inspired, not just mimify and put it as it is. The idea is to be inspired from them and mix it with this all the modern techniques we have today. So yeah, so all these, when we try to implement these natural materials, we can reduce a lot of energy consumption in the gray energy, we say. The gray energy is the energy we use to process before we get the final product. The energy that the product requires before being produced. So in our case, it reduces approximately 80%. And also it reduces the fact that we used a lot of natural material. We didn't use a lot of transport, which was just based on local transport, stone from next in the village next to us. In my case, these stones didn't come from quarries. They came from a guy that was excavating to build his building. So I got the stones from somewhere that is not disfiguring the nature, no, from someone who's just building a house.
Amazing.
Yeah, and also the trash coming out from the construction site was reused because they are natural. We reused the stone like gravel, small pieces of stone. We used the tires to make out of them things for the kids. They tunnel and things like that. They can play in them. And the styrofoam here, which is of course not a sustainable material, but in our case there are some things we cannot replace them for the moment. We used it for to fill it in the back of the house as an insulation. So yeah, and but the most important thing I would like to talk about is concerning that makes a building sustainable is the design of the building, the architecture of the building, which makes it a building that requires minimum energy to cool and heat itself. So in my case, I use the concept of thermal mass that stores the energy of the sun in the summer and restitute it in the winter. I take into consideration also the path of the sun, so and the angle of it. During the winter, it penetrates in the house in the south facade, and in the summer it doesn't penetrate. It's shaded, so it just penetrates in the greenhouse to help grow tropical food. Yeah, so this way also when we do this is named a passive design, and it means the building relies on its design, on its architecture to heat and cool itself, and doesn't need any source of heating or cooling. This way we are reducing also 50% of the consumption of a building. In power also we are using sustainable power, any of these three, like water, sun, or wind. depending on each place we are building on. That's why I consider that life houses are not cannot be considered like prefab houses. Like we do one module and we put it everywhere, because it takes into it adapts to each site we build on. Yeah, so and then we have the water, because in our case we consider recycling also tackles water. We recycle our water. We take the water from the rain and we recycle it 4 times. Why we take it from the rain? Because we found that the rain is the most sustainable resource. Before taking it from underground water or taking it from dams that, as you see in this picture, are disfiguring the nature in one of the most mythical valley in Lebanon that has a lot of myth around it and culture. It has been completely disfigured just to do a dam. So yeah, so this is a challenge for us, and we consider that water is enough, rainwater, in a lot of regions to help to get to store the water we want. Now, concerning the way we recycle the water in the Lifehouse, actually we start harvesting the water from the rain. We store it in a water tank. Then we filter this water. Okay, now we use this water, this clean domestic water, for the sink and the shower. After this, the water is named gray water. This water is not extremely toxic, so we can use it. It's very rich in organics, and it can be used for the irrigation of inside the greenhouse botanical cells that will filter this water. They will take all the nutriments from it, and then they give it back to the toilet flush. The toilet flush transform this water to black water, sewage water. Then this water goes to a septic tank. In our case, we did a biodigester, which is a kind of septic tank that stores the methane released from the solids to use it for cooking. So we generate our own gas also. Then after this, we filter the water even more in reed beds that will and we end up using it for irrigation. So the system is completely contained, and the water is reused 4 times. So this way, we don't need a lot of rain, because we're using less water. So instead of using approximately 200 liters per day per person, we're dividing it by 3. In addition to this, there are other systems like vermicomposting systems and reed systems, reed bed system, that help also to filter the water naturally with no need of any technology. So yeah, so that's it.
Okay, amazing. Okay, then I need you to state for us one environmental opportunity and one challenge that you had to face while designing or constructing your project.
Okay, we had a lot, but I will just talk about, for example, especially
you can say more than one if you wish.
Yeah,
yes, of course.
yeah, especially in my place where the land is very tricky, because the land is very steep, and the soil is completely unstable. It's not rocky, it's very muddy, and there's a lot of water. So we had a big struggle to be able to do the house to fix the foundations of the house. And the main problem is the access of the land, because we didn't have a road. So it was all built by hand. We didn't have machines that helped us excavate. We just use it for the beginning, and then after this, we had to do everything by hand. So this is a big challenge we had. In addition to this, one of the beautiful things, the good things we had, is that we have the chance to have a river next to us, which is an amazing source, an unlimited source of water that helped me reduce in the water storage tanks. And I don't have to rely only on the rain, but I can in the summer take some water from the river. So these are two challenges. In addition to this, we tried, and it was an experimental thing. We wanted to use sawdust and wood chips filled in plastic bags to use it as an insulation, a thermal insulation, natural thermal insulation. But the problem is that natural materials are biodegradable, and they can be also, they are eaten, attacked by rodents and insects. So yeah, so this is a problem, a challenge. So today, if you want to insulate a house with natural materials, we should find a way to to avoid with natural material to avoid these problems to happen, especially biodegradation of the organic materials. Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, so I know that you have a video you would like us to see, and then maybe after that we can go with the Q&A from everyone. I mean, we have some questions, but let's probably see the video, and then after that we go through the questions.
Okay, Hala, before the video also, I was interested to show a bit of pictures during the construction of the lifehouse. Because yeah, so wait, I want to share the screen again.
So sure. Okay. Let us see that. Yeah.
So yeah, so the interesting, I wanted to talk a bit about also the interesting community aspect of the construction, because there wasn't only workers that were building, but we had a lot of volunteers, of people who were interested to learn how to build naturally.
So the community, right? So it was
yeah, it was a very interesting way to teach, to sensitize people and teach them that we can build differently, that we can do things in a different way with the same amount of comfort required in these modern days. So yeah, so as you see here, there are women. Usually we don't find a lot of women in construction sites. There are women, there are foreign people from all around the world who came, participated, tried to do. Here it's we were doing some experiments on earth plastering, which mix is the best, etc. So so yeah, and here we have. There's a very interesting thing here. Actually, there we had the foreman of the construction is an Egyptian guy who used to do earth bricks while he was kid in Egypt, and so he shared his experience, his knowledge with us, and he gave a very beautiful input in the construction. This way, I learned that actually we architects think that we are the gods of on site and we know everything, but actually each person on site has something to say and can say, have a knowledge, particular knowledge, and we can listen to any one of them. They كل واحد عنده وجهة نظر. So this is very interesting. And this way, behaving, this experience, as Yavachev Bertrand is also ecologist, photographer in France, that says that must you always build walls to break the chain of human solidarity, separate people, and protect the happiness of some from others' misery. So and this is another brick wall. This is glass bricks between the mud.
Yeah, that you mentioned, yes.
Yeah, here we were painting the wall with lime. All the white paint is lime. It's natural. It's not artificial things. You see how the light comes through the bricks here.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And we used also some modern stuff like Velux, and here we used also a system of heating and cooling, of heating only, which is named it's a wood stove named rocket mass heater. That is something that you can do yourself. It's a low-tech stove that is extremely efficient. It restitutes 80% of the heat generated from the wood. So you can do it with natural materials, bricks, mainly fire bricks. And Also, the soil, the ground is done with mud that is stabilized with oil, linseed oil. We also use tires to make a form to build a stone on it, and we take it back after. So, and we use a lot of wood. Wood is also a sustainable product, but we should be sure that we are getting it from FSC certified forests, where when they cut the trees, they replant 7 more. So this is the inside of the house. You see it's more all natural materials: stone, lime, wood, glass bottles, all these things. This is from outside. This is the greenhouse that plays a very interesting role in the house. It's a microclimate that allows heating and cooling the house the way we want. It's the AC and chauffage of the house. Yeah. There's snow in where we built the house, and we will not need to heat the house at all. So yeah, so it's time that we adapt to the earth and not the earth adapt to us.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's it. Here I have also some pictures of the UNDP. I can show them fast here. Project we did. It's completely buried, like you can't see anything if only the main facade. So it's a very discreet building, and also it's working perfectly well, and the temperatures are amazing in the summer and the winter with no need of any source of heating or cooling. So yeah, that's it. Here you see even the texture of the mud bricks is amazing. We don't need to treat it, we don't need to do anything. Okay, so I think it's
amazing work, Nizar. Okay, so shall we see the video before we go to the questions? Yep. Because I think we're running out of time and there's a lot of questions. So let's try and see the. Okay. So please make sure to unshare.
Imagine living in a home where you don't have to pay utility bills ever again. Imagine growing your own food, generating your own power, and benefiting from a renewable source of water. Imagine living in a home that reduces your consumption of resources without reducing your quality of life, that reduces your waste output as well as your carbon footprint. Introducing the Life House, a revolutionary home developed by Lebanese architect Nizar Haddad. This resource-efficient ethical home will change the way we live and the way we impact our world. The first Life House, a fully functional prototype, will be built in the Lebanese town of Baskinta.
The project is perfectly adapted to this country. It's an answer to all these crises in the country. Not only the garbage crisis, but the water and the electricity.
First, we are in the beautiful land of Baskinta, and here we will be building the first prototype. It's a self-sufficient home that provides you with your own electricity, your own water, your own food.
We are using many materials, mainly all scavenged materials, all we can find on the site we are building on. It can be natural material, which are the earth, stone, and it can be straw, and it can be also garbage. But for us, the garbage is gold.
We are helping the garbage crisis by using recycled materials to build the house, like tires, عواميد كهرباء قديمة, glass bottles.
We can just start by having a thermal comfort in the house without using fuel, using a very interesting technique, which name is passive annual heat storage. The concept is to absorb the heat of the sun in the summer by the earth, to store it, and to restitute it in the winter. Then we start upgrading by integrating different systems to reach self-sufficiency, like rainwater catching and recycling the rainwater, integrating photovoltaic panels, and trying to reach also the food self-sufficiency by integrating permaculture and aquaponics and hydroponics.
Life House هو بيهتم بحاله. يعني ما عايزك أنت to have heavy maintenance عليه ليمشي. It's a bio machine. كيف بيشتغل؟ أنت اليوم فت حممت. هالمي لوحدها بتروح and it irrigates the botanical cells. Botanical cells عم بيخلوك to grow food, fruits and vegetables. So the source of your fruits and vegetables is coming from you. في inspiration مهمة معينة من أهمها مايكل رينولدز.
A great architect that is building earthships in the US.
They are able to provide themselves with electricity, food, water. ورحنا أنا ونزار على إندونيسيا وعملنا volunteering work and we helped them build a self-sustainable bungalow from zero to finish in 30 days.
Any endeavor like this is worth putting your time and money and presence into.
This concept and many others like it have encouraged people to add their own spin to it. One such endeavor is the Lifehouse Project, the first 100% self-sufficient green building in Lebanon and the Middle East.
That's what really pushes sustainability into the next phase. It's inspirational, and it's this cross-fertilization is always what pushes things beyond the borders that we've got today.
C'est toute la démarche de Lifehouse, de Nizar et de son équipe. C'est à la fois de la tradition et c'est en même temps les connaissances scientifiques actuelles.
The Lifehouse is more than just a house. It's about community, it's about communication. The community will help bring this house together. What we're trying to communicate is that we can build this house. It will become a reality with your help. So join us and help us make this come true.
We want to show people that they can live in a house that's fully recycled, that's fully made of natural materials, and yet live in a luxurious home.
I wanted to prove via this project that we can build self-sufficient, natural, comfortable, low-cost houses, and it's not a myth; it's a reality.
Okay, so Nizar, let's try and go through the questions. I hope I'll be able to say them all because there are a lot. So if we run out of time, then I apologize for those of if I didn't ask your question. So the first one: has there been any interest, or are there plans to build more Lifehouse projects in other countries beyond Lebanon?
Yeah, of course, because the concept of the Lifehouse is to adapt to each climate and to any region. It's a concept. It's not just, as I said, a prototype that is built in one place, is designed for one place.
Okay, so second question. Do you find it difficult with clients to convince them to repurpose material, especially in this region?
You mean the region where, in Lebanon?
I mean Lebanon and the Arab world.
The Arab world? Actually, it's like the people who are reaching me are already people who are interested a bit in this concept. So I didn't have a lot of struggle to convince them because they already came to me. But there's a lot of people who are skeptic because they think that tires are, for example, are toxic and we can't put them in the house, or they want their house to be done with just natural materials. But one of the main advantages is the cost. So when I tell them that it's less expensive than concrete, they will go for it.
Okay. So probably, I mean, there are more questions, but since we're running out of time, this is the last one I'm going to ask. Do you have an awareness outreach program in Lebanon where you explain more about Lifehouse and sustainability in construction or architecture?
No, actually, it's just through social media and through volunteering, because I'm still open for volunteers in the extension of the Lifehouse now. And people who are interested to know more about it are coming. They come and help. So, beside this, I don't have any kind of marketing initiative to make an awareness campaign.
Okay. All right, Nizar. Any closing thoughts on architecture and recycling, and what our audience should know and take away from this interesting talk?
I wish everyone start to question things in all the habits we have today the way our brain is formatted today to do things blindly. I wish people try to see things in a different way and to be aware more about each product they use, how it was made, and what is its impact after that it's being thrown. And ideally, to always trying to find a way to repurpose everything we consume.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and actually also one small thing that I would like to say for the new generations, young one, that everyone thinks that you can't do anything by your own, and they all say that it's not about us, it's about big geopolitical decisions to change things, but actually it's wrong, because if each one of us do one step, we can make a change.
Absolutely, I concur, correct. Thank you so much, Nizar, for this insightful and informative talk. You made us all fall in love again with nature. Thank you all for tuning in, and please make sure to attend our next week talk at the same time.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening to this presentation.
Thank you.